Today, I want to talk about closing in real estate. And this is top of mind because last week I made 5 offers. 4 of them were verbally accepted. 3 I got signatures on. We'll see if I can get signatures on the fourth. But the point is, after talking to hundreds of sellers and making hundreds of offers and doing more than 80 real estate deals in my career so far, I've gotten a lot better at understanding what it takes to get a real estate deal done, and I want to share with you the biggest keys that I've learned. And I've been on this little momentum streak recently. And so some of this is just really top of mind. Who am I? My name is Ryan Rice. I am a full time real estate investor. I did about 40 deals last year, trending towards the same amount this year. And I want to share as much as I can to help you make more money in your real estate business. A prerequisite that I want to start with is the reason why I've gotten better is because of the amount of repetitions that I put in. There's no silver bullet with sales. You can watch all of the sales recordings, you can do so much sales training. And I have spent hours and hours and hours doing tons of sales training. But what has helped me the most is putting in the repetitions, 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 analyze what worked well, what didn't work well, and then throw in some of the sales training here and there that I've learned and then try to apply it and then get feedback. But the way that you're going to get better and start to close more deals is by talking to more sellers. So I want to put that out there as a prerequisite. You can do all the training that you want. There's no better training than actually getting out there and doing repetitions and talking to sellers. So there are 5 key things that I've noticed that I've been doing recently that have been working really, really well. And these are the 5 things that I want to share with you. The first thing is understanding what your desired outcome is on the phone or in person with the seller. And this is really, really important. Your desired outcome is not to get them to sell their house to you. And you have to understand that. You have to believe it so deeply because if you come across to a seller like your goal is to get them to sell the house to you, it's going to come across pushy. You don't have their best interest at heart. You have your best interest, and the seller doesn't give a shit about you, right? They care about themselves and they want to get to where they want to go in the fashion that they want to get there. And so if you can go into every single sales conversation with a seller and you know that your desired outcome is to get them to make a decision and not sell their house to you, then that can help set you up for a really, really good conversation. And that's so important. You are the real estate professional. You have a lot more real estate information likely than the seller does. And the purpose of your conversation with the seller is to give them all of the information they would need based on the problems that they share with you that they have. And then you get them to make a decision. One thing I've noticed in a lot of recent sales calls is I'm actually verbalizing. I am telling them that my goal is to get them to make a decision, not to sell their house to me. And here's kind of how I do this. In the beginning of my process, my sales process, I always look to understand why they're there in the first place. What has them interested in selling? And as they articulate back to me what it is that they're looking to accomplish and why they want to sell, there's usually a good avenue, depending on the flow of the conversation, for me to jump in. And I will say something like, yeah, totally makes sense. And I want to make sure you know too, my mission is not to get you to sell your house to me. In fact, I don't really care if you sell your house to me or not. What's really important to me is that I get you to where you want to go. So everything that you just shared with me, it's more important to me that I get to take care of those things. And if that means that we have to take care of them and the solution to you taking care of them is not selling your house to me, I'm cool with that. If it is, I'm cool with that too. But I want to make sure my goal is not to get you to sell your house to me. My goal is to give you all of the information that you need so that you feel you can make a very confident decision on your best path forward. And I always get a really good response from the seller when I say this. And I think it disarms them, right? It removes me being this pushy salesman. And I think that's so important. And one thing that you're showing the client when you verbalize to them that your goal is to get them to make a decision not sell their house to you, is you're showing them that you care intensely about what it is that they're after. And what I have found is that if you truly, genuinely care more about the prospect than they do, you care more about the prospect's desired outcomes than they do, your probability of working with that seller significantly increases. But you have to genuinely care more about getting to their outcomes than they do. And that can be difficult. You have to be okay with them not selling their house to you. And you actually have to care about getting them to where they want to go more than they do. And that has been really useful for me. The second thing I've noticed I've been doing is doing a really nice job of making the prospect feel understood. I did an entire podcast on this. I'd encourage you to check it out. It's called This One Sales Skill Has Made Me the Most Money. But the concept of making the prospect feel understood is you shut the hell up and you just listen. One of these deals that I put in contract last week, it's a mom that wants to sell her house, and the son is the one who we have been in communication with first. And when I talked to the son, I was on the phone with him for about an hour, and I just listened to his stories. I listened to what it was that he wanted. At least 75% of the call, he talked about things that had absolutely nothing to do to the house. And I just listened. And when he told his stories, I actively engaged in listening. I made sure he knew I was listening by he would say something. Wow, that seems really difficult. Or wow, that seems awesome. It seems like you love cars. Or whatever it was, right? And so the way that you make someone feel understood is you shut the hell up. Don't talk. Your job is not to talk as the salesperson on the call. Just listen. Some people just need someone to talk to, and you will increase your likelihood of getting a deal by just listening and making them feel understood. And again, the way that you make them feel understood is you actually actively listen. And the way that you demonstrate that you actively listen, again, is you repeat back to them what they say to you. And so the same deal, once I was finished talking with the son, I had to call the mom and introduce myself. Same thing. I was on the phone with mom for an hour, and 95% of the sales call, I probably said a total of 15 words. I mean, I was silent. And it was very clear that she wanted to get across a lot of her stories. She had a lot to say. And I just sat there and listened. And I made sure she knew I listened by repeating back to her a lot of the things that she said or labeling some of the things that she told me. The third thing I noticed I've been doing well is us versus them when it comes to price. And so in our sales process, there's a part of the sales process where I'll ask, hey, what do you feel is a fair price for the property? And a lot of times they'll say something. Sometimes they'll say, I don't know, or they'll hesitate to give it to me, or, sometimes they'll say a number. Regardless of what they say, what I have been consistently telling sellers in this part of the sales process, say, hey, yeah, I totally understand. Thank you. Like I mentioned, I have no idea what the property qualifies for right now. All of those questions that I just asked you, I'm going to take all those questions back, and my partners will tell me what the property qualifies for. Sometimes I'll say something like my suits and ties will tell me what the property qualifies for. And what I can tell you, again, all I really care about is getting you to where you want to go. In fact, frankly, I don't really care how much or how little they tell me the property qualifies for. Just everything you just shared with me, that is my mission. I want to make sure that we accomplish that. And again, if it means that you don't sell your house to us and that's how you accomplish getting to where you want to go, I'm cool. Right. And so I established this us versus them frame. I want to make sure that they know that I'm on their side. And I'll tell them, I'll say, I'm going to fight and I'll try and get you as much as I can. And that's not you lying or being unethical. You are going to try to get them as much as you can. You have to make sure that you do so. And it's a way that your business can still be profitable at the same time, which is fine. Your mission is to solve their problems, and you have to do so in a way that's conducive for your business. but you can still go to bat for them and try to get them as much as you can. And I have found that verbalizing that helps disarm them. And a lot of times, some sellers, if they've been hesitant to share a price with me, after I kind of share that frame, a lot of them have been more willing to give me a price that they kind of have in their mind. And some of them truly have no idea, right? Some of them may not know much about real estate, or there might not be a lot of information. And by you talking about that us versus them, they're at least going to articulate something to you that they feel is fair. The fourth thing I'd notice I've been doing pretty consistently is I've been pre-framing my offers. It's not frequent when a seller shares an asking price and you're able to pay that asking price, right? That doesn't happen a lot. And a lot of times too, sellers will inflate their asking, and they'll admit this to you after the fact because they don't know and they want to try and get as much as they get, as they should. But by pre-framing offers, what I mean is I'll go through kind of an offer script. I'll tell them a little bit about how it'll work if they decide that we're going to move forward. And then I'll say something like, okay, so about the property. And Mr. Seller, I want to be super transparent with you. This part of this process makes me really uncomfortable. I enjoy having the conversations like the one that we had yesterday, where I got a chance to get to know you and what is it you're going through. And again, I love just helping people get to the finish line of where they want to go. It makes me super uncomfortable talking about money. And so if I could have my way and my only job was to talk about the friendly stuff, and then I could bring in my suits and ties and they talk about the money, that's probably what I would opt to do. But unfortunately, that's not how it's set up. And so I do have to talk about money. And I want you to know that makes me uncomfortable. So that's my first pre-frame, because I sometimes I am uncomfortable. One of the deals I put in contract last week, the guy asked for 360. I offered him 270. That was very uncomfortable. It was $90,000 less than what he asked for. And by pre-framing, you get ahead of whatever it is that they might be thinking, and you could just tell them that it makes you feel uncomfortable. And the best pre-frame is you're going on and on about how uncomfortable you are, and the seller interrupts you and say, hey, it's totally okay. I know that you're just doing your job. Hey, it's totally okay. I know that you have a business to run, right? Because then they're giving you permission to give them whatever offer that you have, right? So that is kind of the best case scenario. And the second part of the pre-frame is, in Mr. Seller, my biggest concern is that I'm going to disappoint you. And I had such a great conversation with you yesterday. The last thing I want to do is offend you. And I'm just really worried that I'm not going to be able to get done what it is that you need done in a fashion that you're going to feel is okay. And I just don't want to disappoint you. And I'm really worried that I'm going to do that. Right. Because then it's kind of a psychological anchor that I am putting out there, and who knows what they might be thinking. Oh my gosh, what is he going to offer? 100 grand for my property? Or again, the best seller response when you're doing that pre-fame, oh man, I'm so worried that I'm going to disappoint you. They interrupt you and you say, no, hey, it's totally okay. You're not going to disappoint me. Tell me, what do you got? Right? Because again, they're giving you permission to give them whatever you have. And that pre-frame is helping to brace the seller for any sort of psychological impact that you may have to offer a lower number than what it is that they gave you. And the fifth thing that I've noticed I've been doing pretty consistently is making sure you give them the perception that you've left everything on the field fighting for them. And so when I'm giving the offer, I'm saying, hey, my mission, Mr. Seller, you mentioned you were 3 months behind in your mortgage. I told my team that when we come up with an offer, the most important thing is that we got to get this mortgage paid off. We have this time frame. And I told them as well, you mentioned that you don't have a solution for moving some of your things out. Well, I told them that we need to make sure that we take care of that. And so this is going to include that. And I fought hard to try and get you as much as I can, Mr. Seller. And what they told me the property qualifies for is X, right? So I give them the perception that I'm going to fight for them before the offer call when I say, hey, my goal is not to get you to sell your house to me. My goal is to get you all of the information you need to make a decision. And frankly, it doesn't bother me how much or how little that they tell me the property qualifies for. I'm going to go to bat and I'm going to try and get you as much as I can. Right. So you give them the perception early in the conversation that you're going to fight for them. And then when you go to give the offer, it's important that you really touch on all the pain that they've given you. And you say, hey, yeah, so here is what I told my team that in terms of our offer, here's what we need to do for you. And you go through all of their pain and you talk about how you're going to solve all of their problems. And if they present roadblocks to you, like they need help moving or they need to put stuff in a storage unit, you can include those and say, hey, yeah, we're going to take care of the storage unit for you. We're going to make sure all that is good. We're going to hire a moving company and do that because you throw in all of those things and then you can verbalize, yeah. And again, I fought as hard as I could to get you as much as I could. And you're again giving them that perception that you left everything on the field fighting to get them as much as they could. And it helps reconfirm that us versus them mentality. So those are the 5 things that have been working really well for me. And I wanted to put this together because I put those 3 deals in contract out of 5 offers. There's a little bit of momentum, and I hope sharing some of this can help you make some more money in your real estate business.